Sheila, Jared,
Jamie,
Paula, Tony,
Sugar,
Catherine,
Michael,
Sandra,
Ema,
Nick,
Lisa,
Adrian,
Ross,
Linda,
Jane,
Maureen, Nina,
Green.
Anita.
and Bob.
Got disturbed. Have I? Well, good evening or morning, everybody.
Morning, Bob.
Great to see you all. And recognise the life and the energy that's expressing and filling this room. And each and every one of us bring it into the room. And that's what we talk about, non-duality. Simplest thing in the world. Non-duality, not two. And it's said in all the ancient texts, way back when, put different terms on it and seemingly divided, but they're still talking about non-duality. One. Where do you need to go? Where do you have to go? What do you need to do if what they're pointing to is true? Is there any need to search? If it's only one, can it become anything else? Can you take away anything from it? But here, right in front of our very eyes, and not recognised, ignored, because we've learnt words, got other concepts and ideas, and seemingly divide what they clearly tell you all the time. It's indivisible. It's interdependent. It's all, everything relies on something else to be there. And it never was, never will be, or never could be too. But in the very way we speak, we seemingly divide the indivisible. One is absolute. Two is other than that, and it makes it more seemingly appear more as one, and then it becomes problematic. What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it? Things are happening, it's not dead or finished or still. The functioning is going on. But can you really separate it one from another? If there wasn't the one, could there be another? We think we're coming enlightened or realised, got to realise something. But if you already are that, what's to become or what's to realise? So they say, start from the fact, whether you realise it at this moment or not, from the fact that you are that. Keep recognising it in all its different ways, and become absolutely certain that is all there is. And it's appearing, expressing, patterning, shaping, forming in many myriads of different ways. But when you break it all down, it's all life or energy, which we put different labels on that. We call it God, or greater being, or lesser being, or this, that and the other. Put all these words on and continually divide with the words. Is there anyone here who think they can stand alone? Let's have a look at that. realise it's impossible. It's got to be something other. But they say that is all there is. There is no other. And it's true. Where is it all contained? Have a look, where are you and I and the people in this room right now? Are we contained in this room? What is the room contained in? Isn't it space? And what is space? Space to have any centre to it? Have any boundaries? Any beginning? You say it starts here and finishes there? Or it just as it is? This so-called bodies we are patterning, shaping, forming, appearing in. Put it under a microscope. Though it's seemingly solid, you'll see there's big gaps in it, there's lots of space in it. Space is no thing. By thing I mean it hasn't got a shape or a form or a pattern. You can't find a centre to it or any boundaries to it. We see space here, out there and everywhere. Can you find a centre to it? Like a bird getting up in the sky and saying, I'm going to fly to the end of space. What's it going to land on if it goes to the end of space? Or where can it land? Where is the end? Where is the beginning? If it is no thing, no pattern, shape or form, and as the Buddha told you, it's a cognizing emptiness. Space is empty. Empty. No thing. Can something come from no thing? If we all are the content of space. Do you think you're out of space now? You don't even consider it because it's an absolute certainty. It's always been known. But then we start conceptualizing about it, thinking, put thoughts, feelings, and emotion on it. Lose sight of it as it truly is and formulate all sorts of concepts, images. All because we picked up words, descriptions, put meaning into the sounds, the vibration. See, even sound is not separate. There's nothing separate from it. Sound is noise, word, vibration, the movement of energy, that same energy as the body, as the mind, as all this manifestation. And that's the amazing wondrousness of it all. It can appear, pattern, shape and form and express as everything and anything at all, but never lost its true nature. Never anything other than what appears to be. An appearance is not the actuality. The word appearance is what seems to be. They call it a phenomenal manifestation. And that's what the dictionary definition of phenomena is. That which appears to be. There's an appearance of a lot of separation in this room. It is the same life, intelligence, energy, or being that's expressing through everything. If that pattern, particular pattern that's expressing through disappears, where does the life go? Well, what is left in the body breaks the body down and brings it back to its space-like essence again. We're like the cloud being water being evaporated by the sun, it rises as a cloud, the cloud cools down, comes down as water again. appearing as different, but still the same. We take on the belief that we're separate and divide things up, and in the division the one becomes many, and the many keeps becoming more and more, and we start a big story about it, keep the story, plank it into this conceptual image we have about ourselves, and then now instead of being pure life, pure intelligence energy, pure love of being, now I'm the poor miserable human that's feeling this and feeling that, dividing it up, unhappy, fearful, anxious, depressed, guilty, all concepts, all words we've learned, the meaning going into, and the belief going into the meaning, into the sensation and the feeling. Thought. That's what thought is. A sensation. A sensation is there long enough, becomes a feeling. And the feeling then gets the meaning with words we've learned translated into it. And it becomes what we believe it is. Fear, anger, depression, guilt, shame, remorse, unhappiness. All words. And it tells you in the beginning was the Word. Not talking about any one particular word, but words as such. Words are sound, sounds are vibration. A vibration's a movement of energy. And investigate and see if the word's real. The meaning we put in it is the actuality. Is fear the word? Or is it a sensation which stirred up the body and we put, trying to describe it, we put, this one's fear, this one's anger, this one's happiness, this one's sadness, joy. Dividing up the indivisible into words. Tell us, you've got to go on a search, on a path. Who? Who needs to search if it's only the one isn't? What path is there if it's only the absolute? And who but the person that needs to do anything? If they realise you're not the person, there is nothing that needs to be done. You're already there. But still got the concept or idea that I am this person that's having a bad trot, was born, and all the background, seeming background, which goes into the concept of time, which is another image. When we look into time, is there a past if you don't think about it? A little bit of questioning, a little bit of investigation. And I'll say, oh, I'll think I was in the past. But what's the past? Isn't it a moment ago? Isn't it yesterday? Isn't it last year or last week? Some previous time that is not the actuality right now. That we're giving it the energy of belief again, something that's already dead, we're bringing back to life. Regurgitating it and getting sucked into the same old story. What if I let it go? Just leave it as it is. Don't bother locking into it. There'll certainly be another thought. It won't be long in coming either. Might be different. But we hang on to this old one and the new one and get more convoluted, more tied up in the concept. Leave it as it is, what they say. And what is, they mean unaltered, unmodified, something or other.
Correct.
Just another word. And then we look into that and investigate. Going into the seeming concept of time again, you go back into some vague memory now. It's a vague memory. What you did when you first started to reason, when you first learned words, things you did in childhood, it's a few things that were more dramatic than others that are remembered. But the majority of it is not, it's gone. And unless it's recalled, it'll never come back again. But in the recalling of it, you're starting it off afresh. More story. Am I this body? Well, what's going on here, I can translate into words, feelings and thought and say a lot of things about it. But if it's left as it is, it's not so demanding. It's not so seemingly worse. And it is seen clearly that it's transient. Everything is transient. It's all constantly changing. And then if we like to label the changes, we can say it's better or worse, high or low, good or bad, put all sorts of concepts on it. But if I do what they tell me, non-conceptual awareness. Am I unaware? Are you unaware right now? Well, you're absolutely certain that you're not unaware. It's the knowing that is there immediately, spontaneously and actually. But then if it's not going the way we think it should, we go back and evaluate it against some previous experience or imagine some future experience. But remember, it's still non-duality. When was it any other thing than non-duality? When was there any more than one? Have a look at the things around you, the nature and everything that's going on. We've got different labels, different patterns, different shapes and forms, but take any of it outside of space if you can, and you realise space has got no boundaries. So you can't take it out of it. You can't get out of it. So everything is the content of space. That means you, me, we are the content of space. We are not the space. We are the content. The pattern, shapes and forms that it vibrates into. The movement of energy that seemingly forms like waves form in the ocean with a breeze. They're nothing but water. Form, they'll go as long as there's a stirring there. The stirring stops, the sea becomes calm, still. The same here, we stir up the language, the words, the concepts. Now language and words need to be utilised in this life, and they can be very useful. They're not the enemy. But that's what we do. We relate them to a believed in conceptual image, a me or an I, that's having these words. And that image or I becomes the problem. It's only me that can be unhappy. Only me can be miserable or angry, fearful. This believed in me is the cause of fear, anger, depression, guilt, all these other words coming up. If it wasn't for that life that I've labelled as me there, what could I say? And before I learnt words, look as far back as you can, or let there be an opening to what's seemingly gone now, and try and recall what you were like at 2 or 3 years old when words were just happening. What went on then? There's very few little things that I can remember, and they're only vague now. But each one of them conditioned that believing thinking pattern into being the real. Because the parents and school and everybody around us taught us the words. And it's words like I and me. Who or what am I? Is it anything other than the word? A sound? What does it represent? Well, the meaning I've put into it, and most of us have, it represents that sense of presence, that there's this particular pattern right here, right now, and it is I. It is me. But it is the one essence they're pointing to, which they call God or the reality or the actual. And there's different stories. You look into some of the ancient texts and all that, you'll find different stories everywhere. They're pointing this out. The one about Christ, all these disciples are out on a boat doing a bit of fishing or something like that. And a storm comes up. And they get very fearful. It's a very high storm. They look out and there he is walking on the water. And then they don't get the message. And somebody says something to him and he says, "Be not afraid. It is I." Not God or some great being. It is that I, the sense of presence that he was translating to. And when that was recognised, the storm abated. It was over. And that's a good instance of what happens. We translate everything into the believed entity that's doing it, not seeing it is that I, which is a symbol of the figure one, or that everything appears. And each and every one of us knows I am. You can't say, I am not, or they'd bury you alive in the box. And we carting you out of here in the box, if you're not. But you can't negate it. I am. As Christ told you again, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. Not talking about a person, but that sense of presence which translates into the thought. I am. That thought is a good pointer to bring you back to that's the way to go. Come back to the oneness of it. The non-duality of it. Stay with it. Play with it. Recognise it. And realise it opens up as you go along. The further you go along here, the more it opens. The more you see it. I can't do anything. I've never done anything, and yet I believed I did a hell of a lot. Took the blame for it and the praise for it and every other thing. Got bound into it, locked into it. Hardly there now. And it's still growing and going. Left as it is, it will be. But when I start interfering in it and get into a concept, an idea, or an image, the problems come up. What will I do next? Or what will I say? Or this happens and that. Where will it all end? No thing has ever happened. Nothing. Not a vacuum or a void or a nihilistic viewpoint, but no thing. What's a thing? Isn't it a pattern, shape and form? I'm a thing. You're a thing. The tree's a thing. The flower's a thing. The carpet, the room. All this manifestation are things. And there's not one thing you can postulate or think of that could be
outside of space. Outside of space.
Outside of space. So it's all the content of space. And though space, it is a phenomenal manifestation. It manifests, seemingly manifests, but just like the water in a mirage manifests, the snake and the rope, and a lot of other things when you look into it. the blue sea, the blue sky, manifests as such. Phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. It's all appearing to be so and seem to be so, and seemingly life in this body, in its capacity of moving and doing things. Am I moving the body? Or does the body move and then thoughts or emotions or feelings will come up, claim that I do it? Can I be a body in the mind? Or a mind in the body? Well, if this body didn't have the mind in it, what could be said or done? My body, my mind. What's the me or the my? The word, a concept. Write down any word you like, see how solid or substantial it is. Just a concept, a thought. The word's not the thing. Yet we put that belief into it. Another thing is the word belief. An unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. We accept these words, that you're no good, you're a sinner, you're a bad boy, or you're a good boy, you're this, that and the other. People like you or don't like you. Take on all these beliefs, what they say, without questioning. An unquestioned acceptance of something. In the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact. What's the fact? I believe, if I believe I am this body-mind. Is that so? When I recognise that I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the concept, what good must I be? Well, can't separate it from anything? Wouldn't I be that absolute presence, awareness, right now, in which nothing can be added to, nothing can be taken away? What the hell would I need to do then? Wouldn't you just do as they say? Leave it as it is. That's how it is. Not was, not will be, not could be or might be, but just as it is. What is as is right now? And what is right now? Anyone not breathing? Anyone not thinking, or heart not beating? It is so. Not was so, because it's spontaneous. Doesn't last any longer. Time is duration. To get from here to there would take time, duration. But it's spontaneous. Without trying to get there, if I say I can see you down the end of the room already. Don't have to go looking for search for you. So time is a concept we need to get rid of also. See it for what it is. It can be utilised like everything else. But when it's using us, and that's the problem with everything, we believe we are these separate entities, and it's all happening to me. Me is the cause. If you're not relating to a cause, can there be any effect without a cause? You can't really find one when you look into it. No cause, no effect. So are the effects going to stay there? If there's no energy or belief going into them? If they're left as they are, can anything at all live separate and apart from that life, that energy that's suffusing all things? Call it God or whatever label you like to put on it. But know that the label is just a description. and realise the description can never be described. The map can never be the territory. And what we're trying to point to here now is not the actual. And some of you can put it in a different way where it might be more actual for somebody that hears it in other ways than what it's pointed to here. But the fact here is that it has been seen and understood and recognised that that is what I am, that is what you are, that is what everything is, and the no thing is that also. And that's pointed out many old scriptural statements. That is the great mantra, the Mahavakya. I am that, they say, the great mantra. Don't say, I am the person, I am the body, I am the miserable human being. They're telling you clearly, straightly, I am that. And as we just pointed out then, everything is that before you put the meaning into it. And where do you have to go? Who has to go there? What are you going to get? And who's going to get it? Now it's transient, constantly changing. And constantly will continue to change. And some of them, the changes seem more real and worse than others. But recognise it's all still the no thing. No pattern, no shape, no form. And just see where you're looking out of right now. And what's the very first thing you see? The very first thing you see close to your eyeballs is the space. It's no thing, no boundaries. Then you look a bit further and things seemingly appear in space. This room is full of seeming things. But does each one have any independent nature? Can each one stand on their own? Well, get out of space if you think you can stand on your own. You can't. We don't recognise and don't realise it is that already. We don't have to try and become and get it or get anything. It's always and ever been that. But it's not seemingly noticed until it's investigated. And that's the sad part of it. When we start to learn things, we get to take on more of this humanhood and belief. That mightn't be the sad part of it, because it could be very good if it's recognised properly. But otherwise, it can cause a lot of misery, a lot of unhappiness, a lot of angst, anger. As Wei Wei says, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you think, and everything you do is for yourself. Yourself. Myself. How many selves do they talk about in the scriptures? All these ancient texts that are looked into will tell you clearly. It's there, very clear for everyone to see. There is no personal self. There's not a separate self. It's all the one self. Atman, God, whatever label I like to put it, is that one self. Self-aware, self-knowing, self-shining. It's not me that's aware, being self-aware. It's the self that is aware. Self-shining. It's not me that's shining. It's the self, the one self, the Atman, the life energy that's causing the sun to go around the earth, the tides to come in and out, the stars to go, planets to form. It's breathing you, beating your heart, growing your hair and your fingernail, digesting your food. What or who can I be? Well, I can't negate the beingness. I know there's a knowing there that I am. And isn't that the case with you all? You know that you are. Now, they're telling us that that is all there is. But I'm not happy with that. I've got to define something, make something important. This is what I am. Instead of taking it simply what they say, I'm already that, and settle down. If I settle down and not just trying to struggle with it, what happens? It must show up clearly. There couldn't be one without the other. There couldn't be God without the concept of love. Couldn't be love without the concept of God. Couldn't be good or bad without the concepts. It's all the one appearing, seemingly so, appearing to be so. The word is not the thing. The appearance, like a shadow on the wall or an image in the mirror. See an image in the mirror. You can't say it's not there. Go up and try and grab it. You can't say it is there. And when you recognise that, you're not concerned with it anymore. But you see an animal when it first look into a mirror, is going round the back, looking this way, looking that way, trying to find out what's in it. But like us, he can't find anything in there. Because there's nothing there but an image. And nothing can trouble you except your own imagination. Imaging. They come up, mental images, thoughts, feelings. Am I thinking a thought? I used to believe I was thinking a thought. But who is the thinker? Is it I, which is a thought, a concept? Can I think I am? All seemingly happens, all seemingly appears to be so. But when I recognise that the rope was never a snake, I no longer fear I'm going to get bitten or poisoned by it. Doesn't matter whether it really appears anymore or not. And if it does appear, and there's no interest taken in it because it's seen for the false, how long is it going to stay there? Recognise that you are the freedom, the peace, the joy, the absolute. Amazing. The amazement and the wonderment of how this earth or world or globe or whatever you like to call it functions. See the way it's appearing in the wondrous and amazing ways. Things I couldn't conceive of just by thinking. But as people recognise more and more and in tune with it more and more, it reveals itself. And all sorts of solutions come out. But the hardest one to get rid of is the fact that we ignore it in the first place. If we take it, we learn I am the person, I am Bob, or whatever the name might be. I've separated myself seemingly. But if they'd have told me that I am the reality right from the start, I wouldn't have to take on all that load of rubbish. And could have been it. And life entirely as this presence awareness is, as they say, unafraid. It's not fearful. And free. It's not bound. It's not a fearful and bound up thing. It's unafraid and free. Absolute. Can't add anything at all to absolute or the great perfection. It wouldn't be absolute. You can't take anything away from it. Non-duality, get that. It's non-dual, nothing can be added to it, nothing can be taken away. Wouldn't common sense tell you to drop the crap? Why go looking for something that's a fiction when it's there before my very eyes right now? It's only the one. But it needs to be, in this case it had to be, recognised and seen. Otherwise, I wouldn't be still wallowing in it, I'd have been dead long ago. Because I couldn't carry on. It's overwhelming. And that happens to a lot of people that don't get the chance of looking at it or don't look at it. They want out. But you all know and you all had taste. Life can be very joyous. It can be very happy, very beautiful. And what makes it the other way? Only when I think about it. Transcending means stop talking and thinking, and there's nothing you'll not be able to know. In other words, it all reveals itself, you know. But talking and thinking and arguing about it, we get deeper into the story. And the fears get stronger, and the unhappiness and depression and anger, intolerance, hate, all become more pronounced. Finish up a hell of a mess. What do they call it? The peace that passeth all understanding. Why would they say that? Because they recognise it can't be grasped by thought or concept. It can't be grasped by the mind. So what they're telling us is the peace is when the mind is not. And yet we go out looking for peace of mind. If I can do this and do that, I'll get peace of mind. Why hasn't it happened? Why doesn't it happen? Mightn't the dawn just go ring a bell and say, shit, maybe I'm looking in the wrong direction? I've looked in this direction for years and years and never found the answer. And one night there happened to be a gap there, or a little pause or something, and it was seen. It was resonated with it. It was recognised. And in that taste, that which was recognised and tasted was waiting to hear it. And waiting all along, because then it took over. And it takes over and reveals itself. And constantly and continually reveals itself. As ever fresh, ever new, presence awareness. Just this, nothing else. Let whatever else appears, appears. Let it come, and as it's let come, let it go. So it will go also. It's all interconnective. It all connects with each other. There's no gaps or separation in it at all. One without a second, it's all connected. What are you trying to become? What are you trying to get? Where are you going to go? What are you going to get rid of? Just that we ignore the fact. And they tell us that also. Ignorance. We're not, it's there in front of us, we're not noticing. We're going into the concept, the story, because we've been going into the story ever since we learnt words. Our school, society and everything else. You've got to work it out in the mind. Mind. Another concept. If I don't mind, that's the end of it. If I do mind, I'm going to get up in arms and argue with this and that and the other. And the same with spirit and matter. Two ends of the one stick, all the same thing. Spirit is like the fragrance or the sense. There's nothing. And becomes, when it solidifies, it's like ice or blood. It congeals, becomes solid, substantial. Two ends of the one stick, one seemingly set and the other flowing. So I don't mind, and it doesn't matter. If I haven't hung on to it enough for it to congeal, Is it there? Can it be there? Test it out and see. That's all that needs to happen. And that's about it for this time. Away you go, kid.
I'll get your ears. Yeah, one. And we have 23 people with us, and we have few comments from the online community. Bill says, "My own heart speaking through Bob." And that's what the recognition is to be. It's really just one life, one heart, speaking, expressing through everyone. And the curtains are open, says Marty. And good morning messages. And good morning, beautiful people, or beings, or gods. That's that. And wow, Bob. That's that. Good morning, all. Because there are no questions and no sharing from online community, the mic goes to you now. Would anyone like to start? Maybe just highlighting what resonated in the introduction that Bob gave us, or something that you struggle with, or something that helps you to remember. Anita?
Yeah, always ready to go. The thing that really, I've been investigating time for some time now. But now it's space, the whole thing about space. What is space? And just the divine connection with that. So for me, again, I heard very strongly about the space story today.
Isn't it a lovely metaphor?
Yeah.
Yes, we have Laura. One of my favorite shows when I was a kid was Lost in Space.
Yeah.
I've been lost in space. Yeah, beautiful. There are people who actually... Oh yeah, Tibor, you go.
I'm just realised I'm wearing a T-shirt that says Space Invaders. And it was like it was only later that it's like your thought is your space invader, and
Wow.
and everything is, I don't know, but there you go.
It reveals itself in many different ways.
That's right, that's right.
No beginning, no end.
That's it.
Yeah. And I just started saying that regarding lost in space, people often have the concept that they come here to find themselves, to find who they are, to find their true self. And of course the one who is looking for the true self, who is it? Who is the looker? Who is the one who wants to find? Is there anybody home? That's the point, because that you may realize that finding oneself is just an idea. It's really an impossibility. But on the level of the thinking, there is a subtle concept there going on. What will happen when I finally find myself? What is going to be the feeling? Oh, it is not here now. So obviously I haven't found myself. I have to keep looking. But this very concept, that there is anything other or anything different than this moment now as it is just an idea obscuring the clarity of the space. The space is here as it is right now. There is no one who is lost. The one who thinks that is lost, there is an idea, there is a thought that there is a me and I'm lost and I need to find myself. I need to find who I am. And that has to have particular characteristics like bliss or pleasure or having all the answers. Just this is the idea that usually obscure the clear seeing, that life is happening. The way Bob shows, nobody's unaware, nobody's unconscious, everybody is present, everyone is being, and is aware of being. Everyone is aware of existence. Even if you deny the awareness of existence, well, the awareness of existence is here to deny it. So this is what they call reality. Awareness of existence is bliss, or is stillness, or space, or silence. It is already there. And overlaying it is an idea that no, this is not it, this is not right, this moment is... There is a sense of rejection of the reality. There's a sense of something separated from it, having a judgment about it, and looking for something different, for something else. And really, instead of focusing on finding that something different or something else, the real question is, who is looking? What is that? Within that moment of interconnectedness in space, what is that which objects to it, which says, that's not right, that's not it, that's not who I am, or I still don't know, or there is resistance to reality, like Bob says, uneasiness, sense of uneasiness. What is that? Looking at that very stumbling block in complete relaxation into the being, into that oneness with space and the content, whatever, just that. That's interesting inquiry, because see what you're going to find. Is there going to be any self that has those questions? Because the self can't be found. The false self can't be found either. Because who would be looking? You know, when you find an object in awareness, you can't call it self anymore, it's an object. It's not you. Whatever you're looking at is not you, it's not the one that's looking. So whatever is found is what? A thought? A sensation? A vibration? Something. It's not always even there. So how could that be you? So now the possibility is that the identification with that thought form, saying this is not right, this is not good, this is not how it should be, I am not how I should be, I have to keep looking. Maybe the identification with that thought formation will lessen, and you see the thought formation just as an object in the awareness. It may be charged, it may be seductive, it may be emotionally loaded, but nevertheless it's just an object in that field of knowing. And now, if that object is completely irrelevant and impersonal, the object, desire to find something different than this moment, that it can just be ignored. The desire is there, but so what? Who cares? Relaxing, and in that relaxing presence, there is the desire to seek or find or whatever it is. But it's not personal, it's just a vibration, it's just a desire. It's not mine. That's a respite from seeking and the sample or taste of that natural state, in which thoughts may be there or not, doesn't matter. Sights or smells may be there or not, it doesn't matter. It's not some supreme state in which there is no thoughts, no sights, no smells. Nah. It's a natural state. In nature, all the sensations are going on. The calculation goes on, planning, whatever is required for functioning goes on. But that appears on that space-like or screen. Space-like awareness screen. And it's a secondary. Yes, Peter?
Yeah, that's great, Kat. Just thinking how impossible it would be if we could hold the universe dead, you know, make any one concept true. Which one would you choose?
Good
God
point.
dang. Yeah, wouldn't it?
Suffering.
You'd choose suffering, would you?
Would be suffering.
No, you see, we can't hold anything, we can't hold the universe dead with a concept which is its aim. So therefore, you can see that trying to hold the universe dead in concepts is the opposite, really, of life, isn't it? Because life is flowing all the time. You can't hold anything, nothing. Any concept I have is gone now, already. And yet, what am I left with? I'm left here and just basking beautifully in the light of Bob's gaze or something. No. It's all wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next.
Maureen. Yeah. Get the stick below. Hand it over.
Just in relation to what you were saying, of course, to me it appears like we're just addicted, from my perspective, being addicted to giving thoughts energy.
Yeah.
The so-called peace or whatever, call it blissful, what's always present, but because of that addiction, it's like the drug addict, he's got to put down whatever his drug of choice is. And then as he does that, eventually he can reside in that kind of peacefulness, but it takes time. When I say time, because you make the idea in your head it's time, but it's just this addiction constantly to observing the thoughts, giving it energy. And as we weaken, as Bob said before, let go of that, start letting go, then this natural life inside us, the appearance of that becomes more and more. Then we can benefit from that, because it emerges on, it's always there, it's going to emerge, but it can't whilst we're addicted. So I think it's just to start with, until we see something apparent, we have to have some discipline to just not give those thoughts energy, because that's what's going to capture us and take us away from our, our presence, really, which is life, or Bob says, That's from how I see it. So constant work on, I'm addicted to this energy, I'm addicted to this thought, it's just old and it's arising. So how to do it? Well, you just got to you do it. You've just got to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it may show up this way. It may show up as discipline. It may show up as a practice. What makes it actually much easier is, when you listen to Bob and there is something that moves your heart, like instant recognition on the level different than mind. Because for the mind, yes, that was beautiful, perfectly clear explanation that yes, from that perspective, it's kind of recognizing, letting go, recognizing, letting go. It seems like a really big labor, sort of the commitment and the work and discipline and all that. But from that space-like perspective, where you hear Bob and there is a recognition and there is heart opening, falling in love with that space, falling in love with the timelessness, with the silence, with that mystery of not knowing, just really functioning more from the core of the being than from the thinking, then it may still appear the same way. The discipline and all that stuff, it may still show up, but it somewhat comes from a different place. It's not me being disciplined. It's not me like watching that addiction drop or battling with the addiction to thinking, or even like when I see the addiction playing out, then it's a subtle punishment. Shit, I did it again. Oh God. It's no one doing anything. And it might show up as a discipline, but if that comes from that deeply rooted longing for the truth, coming from the recognition and remembrance of it, that discipline is an act of love rather than an act of sacrifice. And this is the invitation, just bringing up that element of just recognizing natural state. And whatever is necessary along the way will show up. For some people it may be necessary to go and reprogram the mind on the level of PTSD or ADHD or whatever the numbers, life will facilitate it. But it just gets the whole seeming process, because there isn't any process from the space perspective. The process is only happening from the human perspective, from the human story. Like Bob was seeking for 16 years, doing austerities, practices, singing, chanting, whatever, and then the mind opened up. For the story of Bob, that's valid. But if you look from the life or space perspective, that space is that life, that essence, that intelligence energy is beating his heart, is moving him around in life, and is moving him through experiences, and is moving him through practices, but it's always the same one life. and it is always fresh and is always already complete and perfect. And at some point it just shines through and the story gets just blown away. So the story of me going through these things is gone. There is no me. And now you look back, where is that story? Who was going through the practices? Who was disciplined? Oh shit, there never was anybody there. Never. There never was Bob going through the practice. There never was Bob being disciplined. There is illusion of someone. And discipline may show up really coming up from that longing for the truth or love for the truth. It's still discipline, kind of. It's still how it looks like. And it,
I think that's in the, say, so-called, when I say beginning, that's just a word.
Yes.
But I feel also, because I've always been one to yearn for the truth, and through different meditative practices or whatever suited me to walk the path to myself. However, I've also very aware, and would be in my awareness, that is aware of addiction to the thoughts. It's almost like it's the awareness bringing attention. So in some uncanny way of life, I believe grace will take over. Grace is always there.
Yes.
It's definitely, and the false me. But there's still, until we reach that more of being in our own truth, then we're still lingering upon the addictive nature of addicting to thoughts, because they come up in vibration, as Bob said, we label them.
Yes.
They arise beyond our control.
Yes.
It's just like a naughty child arising, and then we have to move in with, either come back into our own awareness, but awareness is always observing it.
Yeah.
But there's still that mental capacity to keep going, wants to go over, because it's been a long time doing that. It wants to go over and grab that energetic. So I've got to trust. This is where trust comes in. For me, I've got to trust in the process of grace arising when it wants to. I can't turn around and say, hurry up, I'm over here all the time, because awareness is always there all the time.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise we wouldn't be breathing, we wouldn't be here.
That's right.
So it's there, but there's just that tendency that one has to just accept, I think, where you are with the addictive mind.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that's about acceptance and non-resistance to make it...
Recognition of innocence. That, yes, this beautiful description, absolutely. We were conditioned in a way, and when I say we, I mean the body-mind, because life is not conditioned.
Well, like your analogy you said before, the flute, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
That was truly beautiful.
Yeah, okay, I'll just say it again, because I was chatting with Maureen just before the meeting started, how the life actually expresses through the available means. So the body is already tuned in a particular way. Just if you have, Bob has this beautiful two native Indian flutes. They're completely different. But when you blow the wind through it, they have particular tuning. Same as body, the life. If the body is tuned to be whatever, the pedophile or psychopath, that's how life, that's the mean to express, that's the music that goes through that particular flute. But the way the flute was tuned is the whole life cooperating. There is no, even if there is a strong, persistent illusion that there is a me, that is responsible for it, there is no one there. It's complete innocence. The whole universe created that psychopath or that Hitler or whatever, 1,000 little things, and that now life is using. So your body, whatever the addictions, the thinking addictions, and as it seems, nearly every human pattern, and that has also historical sort of explanation, is tuned to overthinking, is prone to overthinking.
So that's addictive conditioning. So here comes the words, addictive. Again, it's just that addictive conditioning is going to arise, and then we need sharp awareness to be able to see that. Our awareness is very clear, but for us to notice that again, because we are addicted to those feelings. Sometimes you can wake up and have a feeling without even a thought.
That's right.
Why? Because it's an addictive thing again. So,
Bob?
Then we have to go back a bit further. Who's addictive?
Yeah.
False me that
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
addicted to.
Yeah, we're giving in something that we think we're addicted to.
Mm.
And there is no false.
Leave it as it is.
Repeat that last bit.
Leave it as it is.
Leave it as it is.
And it's going to be bound to change, but when we fixate on it and try and more story.
Yeah.
See, another way, what you're saying, what you're describing, you're obviously coming from your own experience, and that's a beautiful description, and it's totally valid. Yes, it's letting go, recognizing. But another way of saying the same thing is, like Bob says, leave it as it is. Instead of engaging and somewhat subtly believing that there is a doing involved, you may actually describe the same thing by, when there is relaxing out of that addictive thinking, which is non-doing, that is relaxing is non-doing, then the natural recognition of discipline comes. So instead of like creating a sense of there is some sort of a witness personality or identity who is watching the addiction and who is disciplined enough to actively let go of it, that see how it subtly creates another sense of entity there that also needs letting go of. But when you say the very, very same description in a way that leave it as it is, just relax, that, the more attention relaxes from that addictive thinking, that train of thought, the more it is present here. And in that presence, the natural witnessing and recognition arises without any doing. But it is still the same phenomenon, just said different way.
Yeah, well, it's like that urgency of vibration. Sometimes vibrations seem to have the urgency, which can grab you.
That's
but
right.
like Bob's saying now,
Leave it as it is.
just don't get fixated on it.
Yes.
So you're still aware of it, but just don't get fixated, because if there was no awareness involved with it, it can consume you.
Yeah.
So
Detach.
just detach, like a naughty child screaming. If you don't give it attention, it's going to wear itself out. So like that urgency of vibration that arises, that can grab you in a second before you've seen it, just don't fixate on it.
Yeah.
I'd say also it seems that that's another trick of the mind to keep it engaged. I have to watch my mind to know when I'm having these thoughts so I can stop them.
So it's like a
And
separate
who is
me.
it? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Separate
It's
me,
still
but
just a
there's no me.
slippery mind
Yeah, there's no me.
because it's not about thinking.
No, that's observing
Yeah.
and observing.
Well, it's experiencing.
Yeah, when one's observing all their experiences,
Yeah.
the same process.
It just
is
gives it
going
more
on.
energy.
Like that.
I think Gilbert was first,
Yeah.
and then we have a few people from community.
Well, in the scheme of things, we all started off as a little baby, innocent child, child consciousness, and ordinary awareness, which is perfect. And Bob was, when he was doing his talk, there were memories coming up from childhood. And Australia used to have 2 or 3 circuses that toured the nation, and so once or twice a year one of the circuses would come to town, and they would have what do they call it, the sideshow alley, which was a larger than life place to go, and there were the boxes, and the spruiker out the front, spruiking this narrative, and those spruikers now are reading the news and they're political commentary people on television. This is all pre-television, by the way. One of the shocks I got was my parents took me to the circus, and we were walking around, and there were all these children, or a few children, walking around with this pink cloud on a stick. and I was curious, just like, and they seemed to be eating these things, and I think my mother said, "Do you want one?" And it's like, well, I'm not sure, but yeah, let's get one. So she gave me the 10 cents or whatever it is, and I went over, and there's this guy making, he's making a squillion selling these pink clouds on a stick, and he was really happy, and but there was something dodgy about him, and so I bought one of these things, and I'm carrying it, looking at it, and eventually I took a bite, and I got the shock of my life because it just disappeared. And it was a real shock because I didn't know what I was expecting. I didn't know what it was, but everyone had one, so even adults were walking around with these things. And so I took one bite, and I didn't want to take another bite. So I offered it back to my dad and my mum, and they didn't want it. But it's sort of it's that shock of realising that things are not what they appear to be. And we, as children, we have these shocks at various times, and not realising that nothing is what it appears to be. And yet we've got all these spruikers who are promising this, that, and the other, and that's the dream. And can the dreamer wake up? Can the dreamer wake up? And who is unaware? I love that question that Bob puts. And a lot of people turn it around and say, are you aware? He doesn't actually ask that. Yeah. He says, are you unaware? And the response comes spontaneously, no. Awareness is here. Then the words, I am aware. But that's the essence, is that, the words don't really, they're not necessary. They're there as part of our culture and our so-called conditioning. But another one of Bob's beautiful questions is, what conditioning is there if you don't think about it? And that can bring a shock. The recognition that there isn't any. And maybe the smile comes. You see through the whole thing that there is no conditioning. And all this stuff, one of the things I mentioned, I think you said something about dogs vomit and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But one of the things I do say now and then is that a dog will vomit and then eat it. But if you try to take the vomit off the dog, it will bite you. It doesn't want you to have the vomit. But all the sad story of me, that people regurgitate over and over and over. My childhood, my trauma, my blah blah blah. It's vomit, and why expect other people to eat it? Eat it yourself and re-vomit if you want, but don't expect somebody else to eat it. Anyway, I could go on.
Lovely.
Is that right? It was just a little bit more to what you were saying before about the addictions. And when I was going through this part of being a seeker, and I was addicted to seeking, and I went into the mind to find out why, and then about 2:30 one morning, I woke up and I'd made the seeking an object. And when I woke up, I realised Helen was the object of the seeking. And that was when seeking opened up and stopped.
Beautiful.
And it's now just loving to be with anything that is as it is in any moment.
Beautiful. Yeah, gorgeous. I have a couple of comments.
Yes, but it's to go into your own mind and find out. Was for me anyway.
Oh, definitely. That's Bob keeps telling, nobody can do it for you.
Yeah, but you can't be loving to be in that moment, or you're still in the object.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's too much of self.
You are, but it's obscured by the
Your
self.
body concepts.
And self-centeredness, selfishness, self-will run riot, and suffering connected with being anything limited is painful. It's associating even as something positive, God, whatever, is still a limitation. It excludes the opposite. So we have a couple of comments from the online community. Laura says, the lights are on, but no one is home. And Bradley, the idea that the idea that there is something that needs to be maintained is the belief in something that can be lost. What would maintenance on effortless awareness look like? Yeah, that's a really good point. Good point. Yeah, anything that has to be maintained. And Bob says, it is like the wave thinking it can decide to jump out of the ocean and become an oceanless, independent wave with problems and thoughts of its own. Yeah, it's just like that. And Laura says, leave it as it is. And Phi says, it was when I understood that my past negative habitual self was me, and I began to love all of me and allow the thoughts to rise and love them because they are me. Then I developed new habits of change by loving all of me now. Beautiful. Yeah. Love all of it or none of it, Nisargadatta says, and the rest will be done for you. And Jane says, where is the conditioning if you don't think about it? Wow. Yep. Where is the past? Where is the future? Where is anything other than the content of this moment? Unless there is a thought. And Tass says, the woman in green, Helen. Beautiful sharing. Thank you. And hi everyone, much love. That's it for the online contribution. So, Anita, did you want to? No?
I've said enough. Said adequate.
Bob, give us a burst.
Blank at the moment.
Blank.
Just my little summary of things.
Please.
I remember like I was updating my conditioning for many years, like it was being updated and upgraded, and there was more discipline, and there was more seeing, and there was more watching, and more observing, and then it was Gilbert actually might have said, what if there's no, he asked me the question about the conditioning, and it just, and I thought, what a load of crap, like everything I was doing was absolute rubbish, like or just to believe in it, to have believed in. But I was just thinking of this space, and like this space-like awareness, and this is just, I don't know, this is how it seems to appear at this moment, where it's like the space invaders that we started with. They're like little packets of energy or whatever, all appearing in the awareness of now, and each little packet might be a thought, might be a sense of a me, an idea of a past, an idea of a future, an idea of a seeker, and they're all embedded in this thing this field that you're observing. But in the same field is the feeling of this chair, or the sense of space, or the sky, or everything's appearing in this space. And I think I don't think I want to say anything further. I'm just going to leave it because there's nothing, it's just all appearing there, and it doesn't matter if there's one of those little packets of energy says I'm a Dean or you're separate or this. They're just packets of whatever it is. God knows what it is. Just like energy pulsating, and it doesn't really make any difference or the content. So and there's just one thing going on, and that's that. And embedded, like you're saying, is the seeker, and then one of those little packets of energy is just like a little is the seeker. And what knows that there's a seeker? Like the seeker, like what sees that there's a seeker? How's the seeker seen?
Witness.
Yeah, and who's the witnesser? And
Where's the witness?
yes, it's the most incredible thing. And all you're looking at is yourself. Is that appearing as everything else? And that's all I've got to say.
Wigan.
What is it?
Sorry.
What is it, Bob?
Let's give Bob first.
Yeah. What did you say?
I won't say nothing.
Hey,
She talks.
So,
No,
I
no.
mean,
the camera is on you. Yes.
You're talking, eh?
You
Okay,
go.
we thought you were going to say something.
Well, I was, but
Yes. Well, please say something.
What was it?
well, we say we're all on about space. We think space is empty as nothing, so we'll ignore that and go into everything else. But if it wasn't for space, there couldn't be anything at all other than that space.
Space defines everything.
Beautiful.
And that's the thing about space. That I picked up strongly again from Bob is no beginning, no end. All things change within it. All things are actively changing within it, coming and going, but remains absolutely endless. So how could space be nothing else other than awareness? It's so beautiful.
It is. Yeah.
so I was
Go on,
just,
Nita, yes.
you know, when you said that, I'm very confused. That's why I don't know how to put it. But like, I always get confused about this. Okay, you know, when you say who is the one that wants to, find herself or himself, right? And I look for it and I don't find it, But then
But who's
then
looking?
Yeah.
Who is looking?
I look for it and I can't find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which eye are you talking about?
Who is looking?
it's that, right? I don't realize, but probably it's that, because it has
That's
to be.
that which is looking. Is that what
That's-
you're looking for?
No, actually now wonder about what is ego then? Like what?
It's a
I mean, the way
definition.
Dean
just a
actually
label.
described.
Yeah, it's a
It's
fiction.
a
Is it-
label.
It's a fiction.
But yeah,
Just
but-
another
but-
story.
So if
Yeah, don't worry about ego. Just see if you can see who is looking, who is trying to find an entity or whatever, who is trying to find whatever. Ego, enlightenment, who is trying to find more money or better boyfriend or pretty dress. Who is the one who is on the search? Is there anyone there who is looking?
I couldn't find it.
Yeah, but did you look who was trying to find it?
Who was trying to find it?
Yes. Because that's the key question.
Who
wants
was
to know?
trying to
Who
find
wants
it?
to know?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, have a look. Have a look.
Well, who wants to know? Tell us. Who do you think wants to know there?
Yeah.
the truth?
Well, the truth or whatever, wanting to know even.
But the truth should know itself, right? So
But what is the truth? Can you describe it? What is it? Because truth is a label.
that's
And
right.
what's behind the label truth? Okay, truth wants to find out. Okay, whatever. But what's behind the label truth? Who is it? What is the truth?
When I try to find anything behind anything, there is nothing there.
But who was trying to find it?
That's what I'm wondering. It's very
Yeah,
confusing.
Keep looking and see who is trying to find. Who wants to have all those questions? Who wants to find the fulfillment? Who is it? What is it that is rejecting this moment now and wanting something else instead? Whatever the something else is, the love, the God, doesn't matter. But what is that? Is there someone that is tangible? If you find anyone, see who is looking. If you can't find anyone, still see who is trying to find it. And see what you end up with. Because that is the thing that nobody can do it for you.
Yeah, that's very frustrating. I never get to find out.
Whoever said there needed to be a who? Whoever, where did that come from?
Yeah, you can say what.
What would the universe be like if there were no creator, were no who, were no, just there?
There is no, what is this energy? Where this energy then comes from? This curiosity, this, this longing, this yearning.
Who's longing? Who's wanting to know?
Sorry?
Who wants to know? I do, isn't it? And who's the I that wants to know?
Me. It's always me.
But who is this me? Like, there is nothing. So where that energy comes from?
Okay, there's nothing. But is there a knowing of that? How could you say there was nothing if you didn't know?
That's right. There is a knowing.
Well, you are the knowing.
So if I'm that knowing, then where?
Will just be the pure knowing. Don't try to conceptualise or grasp with the concept of it. You know, and you know that you know.
Yes.
So if you are the knowing, and within that space of knowing or cognizing emptiness, within that space of cognition or field of consciousness, there is some desire coming. Like Tony was saying, the wanting pops up, or wanting the dress, or wanting enlightenment, or whatever, the wanting, the desire, the urge pops up. But you already relax into being that consciousness, that open field of knowing. So that desire, how is it even personal? What does it matter that it is there or not? What does it matter whether you find the answer to the question or not? If that's not even relevant to what you are, who you are. It's not even yours. It's like a rain cloud passing through the sky. Like you are the sky and the rain cloud, I want a sunshine or whatever is passing through it. If you can actually realize that you are not the grasping seeker, but the knowing of that arising of a seeker. You are the knowing. And seeker becomes impersonal, seeking becomes impersonal. And with that being impersonal, the charge of it goes down. Now it is not important anymore to find out. Is there anyone there? Who is it? It's not important to find out who is this one or who is the knower. It's just, this is the place which we were talking on the Zoom. This is the place in which you are absolutely blissfully relaxed and comfortable with, I have no idea. Yeah. And I don't need to have any idea because there is no I to have any idea. Space doesn't need to have conceptual answer or definition of what it is or who it is. You can, or where it came from, absolutely. Where you actually realize that you are the pure knowing, not the knowing of this or knowing of that, or finding out this or finding out that. You are the knowing within which the question, who am I, arises. Or the question, who is looking, arises. Or I can't find anyone. All of those issues arise in the space, but you are that space which envelops all of them. So now, how important are those thought formations? If you are not associated or identified with any of them, what's the importance of those thoughts formation? What's the importance of, let's say, Dean's thoughts in his head? None. Or Maureen's or Heyman's, whoever's. It's no importance. You are the field. How important is the cloud for the sky, for the emptiness? It's not. So suddenly, see what happens with the searching, with that urge of finding out the truth, with even recognizing the longing for the truth as another urge appearing on the sky that you are. Now there is further relaxation, further relaxation, further relaxation, to the point when nothing is wrong anymore. There's no answer that needs to be found, or the question which needs to be answered. Because everything is perfectly resolved. And those, urges, desires, questions, they may still pop in, but the significance or belief or importance will not be there. Can you see that those questions, they're not there when you go to sleep. They feel like, and I remember being in that position of, seeking, defining my whole identity. That was, it was the most important thing. Of course, I was a daughter and a wife and a mother, or whatever I was. But the seeker, that was, oh my God, so close to my heart. And that is just another role played in that field of consciousness. And that role is gone when you go to sleep. That role is gone when you are busy with admiring nature, when your mind is quiet. You're not the seeker. That is just an urge floating through the sky.
That urge is so unreal then. Because it's coming from nothing, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's actually just an urge.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
How could that be possible?
Yes.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
When Ramana Maharishi posed that question, he didn't really want you to come up with an answer. Because what it does is actually delivers you into who you are in that instant. So when you see nothing, that's what you are. Who am I? I'm nothing. But I'm still cognizing. He says, recognizing in the process.
Bob wants to say something.
And there is a knowing that you know that.
Yeah.
I say there's a knowing that you know that. You're knowing, aren't you?
Yes. That's all?
Well, don't try and put any description or anything.
Yeah, that's all. That's simple. It's simpler than any description, really. It's like a drink of water. It's way simpler than any description you can ever put on the sensation of drinking, on the density, on the color, on any description you put on water, and compare it with just a sip. No thoughts involved. It's that simple.
It's like the Nisargadatta quote, wisdom is knowing I am nothing.
Yeah.
And
when I'm everything, this is love.
And love is the knowing of everything is love. And
In
between
between
those two, my life oscillates.
Yes. Yes, so that's that for today. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Sorry.